AITA for not wanting my mother-in-law to take care of my baby after she tried to breastfeed him. My husband and I both work full-time and we have a 2-month-old. My mother-in-law comes to our house every weekday and watches him for free while we work. We're on week 3 of this arrangement since I went back to work after maternity leave. It's very kind of her to do this for our family and I appreciate it immensely. My baby is breastfed. I pump milk for her to give him during the day and he gets milk right from the source on evenings and weekends. He loves nursing and I do too. It's been a wonderful way for us to bond and about a day I fucked up experience overall. Yesterday while I was at work, I opened the baby monitor app on my phone to check and see if my Mill was able to get him to take a nap in his crib. She had been texting me saying he was crying really hard, so she was thinking about just holding him for a nap. So I wanted to check and see if he was okay and if she ended up just holding him. When I looked at the camera, Mill was holding him and she had her shirt up and he was latched onto her breast. I was shocked and horrified. I called her right away and she didn't answer, so I had to sit there and watch her attempt to breastfeed my baby. He was latched on, but obviously not getting any milk as my mother-in-law is not lactating. I called my husband at work, who eventually got a hold of her. Apparently the baby was crying so hard, and that was the only thing she could think of to calm him down enough to sleep. She breastfed all 4 of her children when they were babies, and it always calmed them down enough to sleep. She was mad that I had checked the camera and told him it was an invasion of privacy. I don't want her watching my baby anymore. We can afford a nanny or daycare. When I told my Mill this, she freaked out and said I was being a bitch and she was just trying to calm the baby down and it wasn't a big deal. She says I'm taking her grandchild away from her and being unfair. My husband understands why I'm upset, but wants to give her another chance to watch the baby. He also doesn't want to spend the money to get a nanny or do daycare when she can care for our baby for free. Am I being unreasonable here? I'm so upset with her and just completely baffled at why she would do this that I never even want to see her again, let alone have her anywhere near my baby. I think I could possibly be the asshole for checking up on her through the camera and also for not wanting her to watch my baby anymore, even though that would mean spending extra money and taking away something she really seems to enjoy doing. AITA? NTA, I'm so shocked. Has she never heard of a pacifier? My mind would never go to breastfeeding another person's baby. I'd have a hard time facing her altogether. He won't take a pacifier. We've tried. But she could have tried giving him a bottle, and she didn't. NTA, there is lots of ways to get a child to calm down, that don't involve breastfeeding when it's not your child and you aren't lactating. She could have given him a soother or a bottle, or tried skin-to-skin contact. I actually think a sugar/whiskey soother would be less disturbing than that. That's legitimately horror movie/hand that rocks the cradle weird shit. NTA, that is so beyond words inappropriate to me. WTF was she thinking? Her judgment is highly suspect. The fact that she defended herself by saying you invaded her privacy, and hello, she's watching your kid and shouldn't be doing anything that requires living room privacy at that point, and that she doesn't even consider what she did as wrong clearly means she's not capable of safely taking care of your child. NTA, that's creepy. AITA for putting a padlock on my son's bedroom door. My 41F son 22 left for basic training last Friday. I cried for days and I miss him very much. He called once to let me know that he was safe, but I most likely will not get to talk to him for the next 12 weeks. I went to the grocery store on Sunday, and when I came home I heard my daughter 16F screaming at my middle son 20M. When I went to see what was going on, I saw my middle son carrying a laundry basket full of my oldest son's clothes and his PS4. I also saw my husband 42M, all of my kids' bio father, putting the rest of his things in garbage bags. My daughter was screaming at both of them to put everything back and that it was Trev's things and not garbage. I asked both my husband and middle son WTF was going on. My son said that his father told him he could take what he wants. At that point I was livid with both of them and said that this was still Trev's home, and that until he told me otherwise, those were still his things and they will be kept in his room until he asks for them. My husband said that it didn't matter, Trev was a man now and his home would be wherever the military sent him. I told my husband that he was being cruel to Trev and that this would always be his home. My daughter was hysterical at this point and I told them both that they were despicable for treating his room and things like a shopping mall. The next day I went out and bought a padlock for his bedroom door and I have one key in the glove box of my car. The other will be taken to my office and locked in my filing cabinet. When my husband saw the padlock he flipped and told me that I was being overdramatic and that this was his house and he would just take a crowbar and pry it off. I told my husband and Jeff that if I saw either of them in that room again or found that someone tampered with that lock, they would both be out of the house. My husband is now calling me a grieving war widow and my middle son is saying that he is entitled to the bigger room now that Trev is gone. Meanwhile all of this drama is making Trev leaving harder on my poor daughter who is truly having a hard time with her big brother being gone. My husband is demanding I take the lock off of the door and let him clean out the room. I refused to do this and told him that the only way the room is getting cleaned out would be if Trev no longer wants to live here. AITA for putting a padlock on the door. /update/ I went to bed shortly after I wrote this post, and wanted to thank everyone for commenting, even the negative ones. To answer a few questions. 1. I spoke to Jeff this morning and asked if he had talked to Trev prior to him leaving about taking his PS4 and clothes and he admitted he did not. Told him that he was stealing his brother's belongings and he had until noon today to return all of them. He agreed, reluctantly, to return everything. I told Jeff that if I saw him near his brother's room again, he would have to find someplace else to live because I would not have my children stealing from each other, especially when the other child is not here. 2. I spoke to my husband this morning as well and asked why he did what he did. He has admitted that he is having a difficult time with Trev being gone and any time he walked past his room he was reminded that he isn't here anymore. He broke down and said that he missed him and he was sorry. He too agreed that what they were doing was wrong and said that he would put everything back the way it was until Trev came home and decided what to do with his things / what he planned to take when he got to his permanent duty station. My husband is former Navy, and he said that he is not there to protect his son and he is scared. He has seen combat and does not want his son to have to see the things that he saw. 3. The entire family agreed that Trev's room would be left the way it was while he was in boot camp / training school, especially since he was only able to take the clothes on his back and his phone when he left for basic. The agreement was that when he was sent to his permanent duty station, he would make an inventory of the items he needed and we would store / donate what he did not want and ship the things that would not fit into a suitcase. 4. My daughter and her bubba are very close. This transition has been very hard on her, which in turn has made things worse for me because not only am I concerned about my son, but I am concerned about my poor daughter who is clearly struggling with him being gone. My husband and I discussed it and we think it is wise to find her someone to talk to or even a sibling support group for active duty military where she can go and talk about her feelings and fears. Info. Trev was a man now. What does that make your 20-year-old son? Is he getting all his possessions taken away too? NTA. I feel like a room switch could be negotiated with your sons in 12 weeks, but there's no reason at all for them to be stealing and throwing away Trev's things. They're still his things. Even if he ends up living elsewhere, one assumes he, wants his stuff. What if Trev doesn't make it through basic? Not only does he have to deal with all the emotional baggage of that and then seeing what his family did to his room and his stuff. WTF. I can sort of understand swapping rooms, but taking his stuff. I wouldn't do that to a roommate. Forget family. WTF. WTF. Sorry, had to say it more times. My parents had some of my stuff 20 years after I lived there. It was boxed up in a crawl space, but it wasn't thrown out without my knowledge. Of course op is NTA. Wow, it is super weird to me that your other son and your husband are acting like Trev is dead, not just away for 12 weeks. Did they hate Trev or something? It sure seems like they do, considering they're literally stealing his stuff, his space, everything. apparently without ever having discussed it with him beforehand. And their disrespect for your empty nest syndrome is also weird. It feels like they're being super passive-aggressive towards him, and you and your daughter by extension. And with that, this is his house crack. I'm wondering if there's some kind of beef between your husband and Trev that your husband has waited till now to vent. Or maybe he's just feeling threatened by the fact that Trev is a man now. I have no suggestions on how to get past this, because I can't see how you get past such disrespectful, cruel behavior. I'm sorry your husband and son are assholes. NTA. NTA. Why are they acting like he's gone for good? Won't he come back and need a room to stay in plus want all his belongings and civilian clothes? They're acting like he forfeited his belongings. I can understand moving his stuff to the smaller room and doing a switch since he's no longer living there, but treating his stuff like garbage or a free-for-all is just rude and weird. Like, it's not like he moved out and left stuff he didn't want to bother with. You're not allowed to just take all your things to the army with USMH. AITA for not letting my son claim a box of granola bars. My son, 16, has a favorite kind of granola bars. We always buy him a huge box so they last longer. The issue is, he freaks out if anyone else has one. We never eat the last one, but they're pretty good and it makes for a good snack. He's scared his sister, 14, out of eating any due to his freak out when she dared to eat one. My wife isn't a fan, so she never has one. I refuse to be bullied out of eating one of like 40 granola bars. Yesterday, I grabbed one and my son started on me, "Why are you eating my granola bars?" I held up a hand and told him they are not your granola bars. You did not buy them. They're for the house and everyone can have some. There's a ton left and I can have one. In the future, if your sister wants one too, she can. He got pissed. My wife told me to just have something else and I said no, leaving to enjoy it. My son apparently wrote his name on the box with Sharpie. I put tape over it and put, "Our last name, family." My wife says I'm being petty, but I find all of this ridiculous. AITA, edit, some FAQs. My son isn't autistic and doesn't have an eating disorder. I said we buy him, but I meant that we buy the box. He primarily eats them, but occasionally my daughter and I want to have one. They're not bought just for him. The granola bars in question are the chocolate chip Kirkland bars from Costco. NTA. If he wants his own box, he's 16. He can pay for his own box. Ooh, he's 16? I completely skipped over that part while reading. From his behavior, I was just imagining a petulant 6-year-old child and not a young adult. NTA. This is a pivotal moment for your son. Your son needs to learn to share. He's lacking gratitude and showing no understanding for the fact that food costs money and whoever buys it owns it. Don't let this one go. Hammer this lesson home and he'll be a better son, brother, roommate, significant other, friend, etc. in the future because of it. He should have learned this a long time ago. He's 16, not 3. NTA, but you will be if you don't do anything more to address this. I'm assuming he doesn't have dietary restrictions that make it so these granola bars are one of the only things he can eat. If that's the case, he shouldn't be freaking out over a snack. Why does he feel so possessive of them? Does anyone else in the family have something that's exclusively theirs in the house? Could be feeling less cared about? If so, does he have any other issues with food, like restrictive eating or calorie counting? Because that could make it an anxiety/mental health issue. If you eliminate the possible big reasons, it's very possible that he's going through the asshole stage of being a teenager. In which case, actual consequences should be employed. If he freaks out over someone else having one, he doesn't get any more from that box until he apologizes. If he does it again, he doesn't get any more from that box, period. When the box runs out, tell him that if the issues continue, you simply won't be buying any more. There's no dietary reasons and no eating disorders.